Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the SevereMMA YouTube channel. Today, I have a conversation with Liam McCracken. He is fighting at the upcoming Bellator Dublin against Asaël Adjoudj. In this conversation, we talk about a plethora of things. We talk about being a father at a young age and how that relates to his fighting career. We talk about how he approached his amateur career in comparison to how he approaches his professional career. We talk about his thoughts on nerves. We talk about his thoughts on damage. And most importantly, we talk about MMA and its global standing today. Thanks very much to Liam for his time, and thank you very much for watching. So, as a young man, 21 years of age, 12 amateur fights, 3-0 as a pro, can you tell me what your opinion of mixed martial arts is right now, both the landscape of the sport itself, but also as being what I would like to call a modern MMA fighter? How do you view MMA right now?
I'd say that especially recently, the level of MMA shot up. I mean, when you watch fights from back in the day, and this isn't me trying to disrespect any of the legends because the sport wouldn't be what it is without them. I just think the level is so much different. Like, you watch some of these people who are regarded as back in their day, they were the best in the world. Like, they wouldn't even probably touch the top 30 now. Do you know what I mean? So the level, I think, recently has shot up. You look at people my age and people a little bit older than me. Look at the likes of Mo, and there's a few in the UFC now who were 21 years of age, 22 years of age, and the more complete than some of these people who are considered legends. So it's good. It just goes to show how the sport's evolving, and it's definitely getting better year on year.
And you mentioned the evolution, right? And you rightly say that I think modern MMA wouldn't be where it is if we weren't standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before us, right? They obviously set the foundations and the boundaries. But from a skill acquisition perspective, when you walk in to Aspire and you do a training session, do you have a different mindset, or do you think about and cognate things differently at the age you are now in comparison to when you first started?
Yeah, definitely. I think since I've been young, there's always been a big focus on skill training. The physical attributes have sort of come throughout the years, just through the amount of time I have trained. But since I was a kid, especially since I joined Aspire, with the likes of Phil had me since I was a kid, and there's always been a massive focus on the skill side of things. I think you look at some fighters, and it's sort of the opposite. I seen a video of Chael Sonnen speaking about it the other day, saying some people think it's the ultimate, don't know what he said, myth it in championships or something like that. If you know what I mean, you might have seen the clip. And I was it is right. There's a big focus under Phil on the skill development, and I have been like that since I was a kid, and that's why I think it's starting to pay off now. But yeah, definitely, it is all about the skill set.
And on the skill set, maybe this is a tough question, but what's your opinion, especially being as a young pro and obviously just turning over from amateur, what's your opinion on hard sparring? Do you think hard sparring should exist for amateurs? Do you think it should exist for early pros? If so, at what sort of regularity would you expect to be hard sparring? What do you think is beneficial?
We don't do it too much at our gym. There's a place for everything. There might be a time where leading up to this fight, I went and done some sparring with Joe Ryan, and he's a Thai fighter. He's unbelievable striker, and he goes hard. He likes hard spar. No one's getting hurt, but it's harder than what we'd usually spar at our gym. But you don't need that week in, week out. I don't need to get punched in the head every week to tell myself that I can take a shot. I saved that for the fight. And I think you look at some of these gyms who spar hard all the time, and they just look so hesitant and scared when they're fighting. And you would be. When we started sparring lighter, my striking come on levels because I learned how to relax in the gym and defend shots properly, learning how to block with my hands. You're not going to do that if someone's throwing bombs at you. You're just trying your best to stay as far away from someone as you can. So I think, for you were speaking about the skill development, for more playful sparring is definitely better. But it's the same as anything in life. I think people get better at things through playing. It's just, you know what I mean? When it's more playful, you're able to learn more. So I do think hard sparring's got a place. Maybe I once or twice a camp I'll go at it just to really push the cardio and but you don't need it. You don't need it every week. And I think if you are doing it every week, you're stupid.
I didn't want to bring it in this early, but I'll bring it in. You mentioned, and I think you're absolutely right, that people learn through play. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, as a young father, how much you watching your own child learn through play, how much do you take from that, and are you able to implement that in your own training and your own skill development?
That's why that was fresh in my head, because of her. Like, that's how she's learning everything at the minute you play, and she does it once. And it's funny, like, the first thing, like, whatever she's learning, so she's been learning to roll over for a bit, and now she's learning to sit up. Like, as soon as she wakes up in the night, the first thing she'll do is, like, she'll be half asleep and she's trying to sit herself up. You know what I mean? So it's just like practice, and she's doing that all day. But like you say, it's learning through playing. And it's the same thing when you're doing MMA, or it's like some of the best sessions where I learn the most is when I come in with like a small group of us and we just practice stuff. I've got Phil there watching over it, and we just like practice and we like bounce ideas off each other, and then you really come away with a good understanding of something. And so I do think that's when you come on the most.
One element of modern MMA that I think as somebody that's slightly older, struggle to sort of piece together is the social media aspect of things.
Yeah.
You're somebody that has sort of grown up with social media as just being part of your world and part of your landscape. How do you feel about the introduction of social media into fighting, right? Like, some fighters look at it as, I go into the cage on whatever promotion I'm fighting under. I have my fight, win or lose, I walk away, and this is like my job, right? This is my 9 to 5. I clock in, I clock out. It feels to me that the landscape is changing slightly, and that more and more fighters are leaning towards having to give more of their personal life in order to build a brand and build an identity. Do you have an
Yeah.
opinion on that?
Yeah, it's hard to find a balance. Like, like you said, like, you are a brand in yourself, so it's obviously a big thing for, like, it helps you get paid more, it helps get sponsors, and you've got to understand it from their side as well. They want someone with like as much followers, but at the same time, like, you look at some people, and I'd say they're more of like an influencer than a fighter, and that's not what I want to be. When I'm in camp, I struggle to even put a post on sometimes. Like, I have to get reminded by people around me, like, you're not putting on there, because I just can't be bothered. I'm not focused on my training. Whereas every gym you go, there's always someone. It's like they can't train without getting a picture or a video. And I get it to some extent, but you got to remember what you're there to do. I'm looking forward to the day where hopefully I can have someone who just like runs that side of things for me. That'll make my life a lot easier. Like, but yeah, like, it is hard because you do need the followers and things like that to get you onto the bigger shows. So it's just finding a balance with it. But I definitely think some people put too much focus on it, especially in the early stages of your career. Save it for when you're going to be getting paid for it.
And I guess that's one question that I have, is you mentioned there that you have to have the followers in order to get onto these bigger promotions.
Mm.
Do you think that's right? Like, because that to me doesn't feel like it's coming from a meritocracy standpoint. If you're a good fighter, and let's say you've got a 4, 5, 6, 7-0 record, why shouldn't your skills in the cage be able to get you to those promotions?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't agree with it. I think it should be like, it's a fighting sport, isn't it? So I would like the main thing to be about the fighting, but at the same time, it's entertainment, same as anything else. So they want like the more popular people who's going to bring the most eyes. For example, one of my mates, Charlie, he hates social media. He's not got it. He's just turning professional now. And like, he might find it a little bit harder to get on the big shows, but his skill set, like, right up there, you know what I mean? So we're telling him, like, you've got to get it, but he just doesn't want him. So, like, that's just a good example of it there. Like, he deserves to get an opportunity on a big show, but you can't blame the show if they're not going to want him on it, because like, it's like you've both got to bring something to the table.
See, I kind of agree with that, but in the same vein, like, I do feel that if you're a fighter, I think I lean more towards the position that you're saying, that I would like to see fighters be judged by their skills rather than by their following, right? Because you've just mentioned there that there's always a guy in the gym, at every gym you go to, and they have to get a picture, or they have to get a video, or they have to put a story up about their training session. And I think you're right that you have to remember why you're doing this. You said earlier already about, you don't do many heavy spars because that's not going to keep you longevity in your career, right? It's not going to help you to learn necessarily as fast as if you're playing and if you're experimenting with your training partners. Do you not feel as though the social media age is becoming, I don't know the right word, like that it's kind of stifling a fighter's ability to get where they should be getting with their own skill set. Let's take your teammate as an example.
Yeah, 100%. I think you got to think about as well is a lot of the time things people want to see, like that gets lots of views and lots of likes, is the shit that doesn't really work. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like I'm the opposite. I love basic stuff. I just love doing the simple stuff. That if you got a video of it, people are probably gonna look and go like, you know what I mean? There's nothing special about it, but that's the kind of stuff that wins fights. Whereas you get some people and all they want to do is like the flashy stuff or stuff, something that, like you said, is going to get likes on social media. But that's not the kind of stuff that works in a fight. It's all about basics. So I think it can sometimes push people away from fundamentals. Like I know some people who are like that, who'd rather it like a 20-punch combo. I'd rather do an hour session on my job. Do you know what I mean? So, but like, yeah, it's to their own, innit?
So on that topic of basics, this will probably come out after the fight has happened, but tell me your thoughts on Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, because Volkanovski, in my opinion, is just an unbelievable master of the basics.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If anyone's going to beat Islam, it's him. I think if Volkanovski can't, despite him being small and things like that, if he doesn't do it, I think Islam's just going to go through the rest of his career all right. Because he's like people who like have got that build where they're like short and compact. Like my coaches like that, Dean, everyone we call him like the power cube. People like that are a nightmare to keep down. Like they're small, they're just built to get up. They got a low sense of gravity. So if you can keep him down, he can keep anyone down. And when we're saying about basics, is like his striking's not that flashy or fancy, but he's just got a better understanding of range than most people. The way he bounces in and out, like it's boring, like to some people that, but he's got it down to a T, and that's the kind of thing that'll win you a fight against someone with that high level grappling, just the understanding of distance.
And that was my question. Like that's my big thought coming into this is Volkanovski is a master of footwork, but the thing that I can potentially see happening is if Makhachev is just being outclassed on the feet in terms of the footwork battle, not necessarily strike for strike or not necessarily in the exchanges, but in the actual footwork and range battle, I wonder whether he just tries to just out athlete Alexander and just tries to barrel him into the cage. And obviously, when we get to the cage, there is a plethora of systems that the Makhachev has. Do you think that Alexander can use that footwork to actually push Islam back? How do you think the fight actually plays out from a tangible perspective?
I honestly really don't know. This is one of the only fights in a while where I've been like, I just don't know how this is gonna go. Like it's freestyle wrestling and MMA wrestling are two completely different things. But Makhachev and Khabib and all that, the masters of MMA wrestling as well. Like once they only need to get a hold of you. But that's where the question is, can he get a hold of Volkanovski because he's so good at being in and out? I think he will at some point, but it's how Volkanovski reacts to it. But we'll see. I would like Volkanovski to win. I want to go and do some training with him at some point. I was looking to go at the start of this year, and the scene he's been in Bang Tao, so I was looking to go there as well. So I was a bit disappointed I never ended up going, but definitely at some point I'd like to go and train with him. Be good experience getting to train with the best in the world at my weight, which he definitely is.
100%. I mean, that was one of my other questions. One of my other talking points was about cross training. Like there, I feel like, especially in grappling gyms, but also in some MMA gyms, there seems to be a sort of a stigma against cross training. Like obviously, you're somebody that trains with a multitude of different people in multitude of different rooms. Like, what's your opinion? As I say, as a young modern MMA fighter, what's your opinion on cross training?
Again, it's the same as anything. It's balance. Like I think some people can go to one way where they're just training everywhere and they've got no one like watching over them all the time. And you know what I mean? Like picking at the little details, which I've got. I'm lucky I've got in like a few different coaches. I've got Phil, who's like my head coach. He looks over everything. Then I've obviously got Dean as well. And then I've got a boxing coach who I work with at another gym. I've got a Thai coach who I work with at another gym. And I'm just taking little bits from all of these people. But at the same time, like I've got, like I said, Phil to look over and oversee everything and sort of like signpost me in the right direction. Like you see some people and they're absolutely everywhere. And like I said, it's balance. You can benefit from going around to other places, but I think you can also overdo it. Like you want someone over there, like overseeing like what you're doing.
I think there's also something to be said about having a core group of teammates that are on the same trajectory. Like you mentioned Makhachev earlier. Marlon Jones is somebody that, you know, has been on the same road as you for a little while. Like, can you speak to a little bit about, you've obviously mentioned cross training, you go to other gyms, you pick up information from other gyms, other coaches, and you bring it back to sort of this core group of teammates. And if you take it into those sessions where you have just said that some of the more useful and fruitful sessions that you're having are coming when there's just a small group of lads around your weight class, they've all got a bunch of different ideas and you bounce them off and trade them with each other. Like, can you take me through some of those sessions and some of the way that those core group of teammates build each other when you're all on the same path, right?
Yeah, well, most of my learning have probably been done in sessions with like me, Marlon, and Phil. Like we've been doing that since we were about 14. We get in, he'd just make us drill. So we do like both of us like to consider ourselves, and other people probably will tell you, like, we're masters of taking someone's back and keeping it and finishing when we're on it, and that's just through hours and hours of drilling. But like I'm saying, with Phil there watching over us as like the head coach, and we've drilled like thousands and thousands of hours of just taking the back attacking. So they are the sessions where I think like I've done the most learning. And when you've got someone like that, another teammate, it can really help push it on. I seen a post, I think it was Brad Liddell put a post on about one of Volkanovski's training partners. I don't know if you've seen that, but I read the post the other day, and he was just speaking about how important it is to have like other hungry people on the same journey as you. It's not all about training with a mat full of, like, let's just say American top team, for example. If I went to there now, there's loads of boss sparring partners for me, but no one really gives a shit about me. I'm just a little fish in a big pond. Whereas at my gym, there's a small group of hungry fighters, and we're all on the same goal. So, yeah.
I was going to ask that, but I'm glad you've answered that question. Like, as a young fighter, there's sort of two stereotypes, right? There's one where it's sort of the Conor McGregor-esque type thought, which is, I'm going to stay in this exact same gym. I'm not going to go outside this gym, and I'm going to bring everyone with me. I'm going to show everyone that this gym is enough to get you to world championships. And then there's the other thought, which is, well, I might go and I might take some time at an American top team, or I might take some time at a Bang Tower, I might take some time at a City Kickboxing or an AKA or whatever it is. Like, would you say then that you're, I guess, in the middle, right, where you have your core group of teammates, which are Aspire, but if an Alexander Volkanovski or if a X fighter or whoever it is out at a Bang Tower, out over here or over there, you'd be willing to travel and spend some time there and gain some experience?
Yeah, 100%. I was, like I said, I was planning on doing that, and my coach pushes me to do that. But in like there's a right time for it. So in camp, he likes me to go to higher level. I've got a good relationship with the lads down there, like James, and like there's some of their fighters are unbelievable around my weight. So it's good for me to go down there and get rounds in. But at the same time, most of my learning gets done under Phil at my own gym. So again, just balance finding what works for you. But I'll 100% be taking my team all the way to the top with me. I'm never going to be one of these people who feels like I need to go and travel around. Like, I've got what I need right here. There's going to be times where I need to go and like branch out a little bit for like sparring and things like that. But yeah, I'll be with the team I've got with me now till the very end. Like,
and you mentioned the back attack rounds. You mentioned the grappling. Talk to me, and it may be again balance, but like you jumped in on Grapple Fest not so long ago, and you know I've seen you at a number of Empire events and a variety of other places. Talk to me a little bit about, obviously MMA is your core focus, right? This is now your professional career, but tell me a little bit about jumping into sport grappling events. Is that just to keep those tools sharp? Is it just for fun? Like, what are those sort of prospects for you?
yeah, I used to probably be more interested in competing grappling when I was younger. Like, I won the British Open and things like that as a kid. I won some good competitions like the ADCC Nationals when I was younger, about like 15. But I do think there's a big difference between grappling and MMA. So I could sort of like come away from it a little bit. MMA grappling and grappling, like, people don't understand how different it is. It's like a completely different ball game when you can punch someone in the face. And even just the style of grappling, the way people grapple, like jiu-jitsu is very loose. MMA is the opposite. Like, you could roll with someone in a jiu-jitsu round and like I've had this before. Like I could roll with someone in a jiu-jitsu round and he can tap me and like frustrate me, and I'll do an MMA grappling round. No, like just on the floor, like but put strikes in and things like that, and it's just a completely different round. So I have sort of took a little bit of a back step from jiu-jitsu competition, but it's 100% something I'll go back to in between fights and things like that. I think it's good to keep like that competitive spirit as well, where I've still got like a goal to aim for in between fights. But yeah, definitely took a back step from it. But I think when I was doing them as a kid, it definitely brought me on a lot and got me used to competing, because that is a big thing as well. Compete, it's all the same to me. Competition, like whatever I want to do, I want to win. So if I'm doing a grappling competition, like I've heard people say, like I get as nervous for that as I would do for a fight. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all the same to me. It's competition. I get nervous before a game of FIFA with someone because I want to win everything that I want to do. Do you know what I mean? So that's just like the competitor in me.
Where does that come from? Where does that originate from? That competitor. Where does it come from?
Do you know what? I honestly don't know, because before fighting, I wasn't really great at anything. I was clever in school, but I was never like all about like being the best at something. But as I got older, as soon as I started saying MMA, really, I was like, I want to be the best at this, and I hate losing. I proper cannot stand losing. So Phil will probably tell stories of it when I'm older at the end of my career. Like I'm a bit of a little bitch if I get tapped or anything like that. But like there's a saying, like, show me a good loser and you show me a loser or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but like I'm a bad loser, but I think that's also a good thing as well, because I try and win everything. Probably sometimes to my own detriment at sometimes, but like I want to win every single second of what I do, and I'm like that in the gym. I'm like that when I spar. I try and win everything, but I do think that benefits me as well. Like I'm trying to win little battles that other people like don't really care about.
Well, you mentioned Alexander Volkanovski and the master of the basics. Like he's winning thousands of micro battles in order for you to then see him land a jab, or to see him land a 1-2, or to see him evade a shot, or to see him, like, there are so many minute micro battles that obviously you would know far better than me, but you can see some of those micro battles, and some of them are like I can't see. I want to touch on the nerves aspect and how you deal with competition. Like you say, you get nervous for FIFA, and I think everyone can relate to that, right? Everyone. You sign up, your team comes up, you're Madrid or whoever you are, and they're like some other good team. You're like, oh, here we go, like fuck. And your hands get a little bit sweaty, and then it starts, right? And from the moment that you kick off, you can tell if they're good or not, right? I think the same thing happens in a grappling competition. Like you step on the mat and you lock up with them, and immediately you're like, oh, okay, like I can feel the level of this person.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the nerves, not just at a FIFA game, obviously, but when you're preparing for a fight weeks out? Because I mean, I think the difference for me is you jump into a grappling tournament, whatever it is, you've almost no idea who you're competing against. You don't know their styles. You just may know their name if you look at the brackets ahead of time. You turn up on the day, you grapple, you go home regardless of what the result is. MMA, you've got an opponent. You've got a date in the future. You have a game plan to adhere to. You have a set of skills that you're preparing for. Like, how does that change the nerves for you?
Nerves is a hard one. Like I do get nervous before I compete, but just through experience, and this is why I'm glad I done amateur the way I did. I've learned how to like channel it in my own favour now. Like I love the feeling of being about to walk out from a fight. I used to like I didn't used to enjoy that feeling when I was a bit younger. And it's hard when younger. When I was like 16 fighting fully grown men, I'd be in the back and I'd never want to warm up. Like I'd be like, nah, I just refuse to do a warm up. But looking back, that was probably just nerves. Whereas now I do a big long warm up, I get sweaty, and like I embrace the feeling of like the fear. Like I sort of just let it make me feel like I'm alive. And like you were saying, like you can sort of get like a feeling for someone when as soon as you step in there, even before you fight, you can sense someone's energy. And I always like step into the cage with like a good energy about me. Like you could put me in there with anyone, and I'll take that confidence and that energy in there with me. And the opponents will always feel it. And you get people who you feel it back from, and like you look across from them, and it's like, shit, this is going to be a good one, this. And that's what I'm thinking about this fight. Like, this kid's, he's done it from when you go against someone who's done it from when they were that young, you just become a competitor. Like, he's going to want to win just as much as me. None of us are going to get in there and shy away from it. We've been doing this for years now. Like, we know what it's about. So you get in there. I'm looking forward to getting in there, letting him feel my energy and know that I'm there to give it everything I've got. And I'm sure he's going to be the same, and that's what excites me. But as well, that's what gets you nervous as well. So my last fight, I had an opponent who I just couldn't get a fight, and I ended up with an Italian guy. He had a good record, but I watched them fight, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna like run through this kid easy, and I wasn't getting nervous or anything like that. And I didn't like the feeling of not being nervous. Whereas this, every single night I'm going to bed and I'm thinking about this kid I'm fighting. I'm obsessed with him. Do you know what I mean? I've got him as the screensaver. It was one of my screensavers on my phone. Like, my life has been all about this kid since the day I found out I'm fighting him. Probably a bit of a weird obsession, like, but that's how I learned. That's how I cope with it. And like I was saying about my last fight, on the day before I got a change of opponents, I ended up with a kid who'd been training for another 2-0 guy who was good, been training for years, had a good amateur career. And then I got the nerves then of being like, oh, this is a proper fight. And it sounds weird, but it put me at ease that I was fighting a good opponent who made me nervous. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mad one. But, yeah, got to embrace the nerves, and I've definitely learned how to deal with it the more experience I've got.
So we'll pivot to the fight coming up, right? I think before we actually get into the nuts and bolts, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of two prospects facing each other so early in their career, right? Like, in MMA, the idea of an undefeated record, I think, is way less important than it is in boxing. You know, you can have a couple of losses in your MMA career. You can have more than a couple of losses, and you can still be seen as a really high level fighter, a really tough matchup. And, you know, you can go places, you can win championships with losses on your record. There's no problem there. Both of you, I mean, Asaël obviously has a loss on his record, but both of you are touted pretty highly as the next prospects coming through on sort of the European MMA scene. How do you feel about being put together to fight this early in your career? Is it something that you embrace? Is it something you prefer to happen later on down the line? Like, how do you view this?
I'm all for it. That's what we're in the sport to do. Like, I want to fight the best people. And like I've said this from the start, like I'm honestly not scared of losing no more. Like, it's not gonna define my career or anything. Like, I'm not fighting to be an undefeated fighter, because I could do that quite easily. I could just pick my fights and finish 30, you know, and I know I could do that. But that's not what I'm in it for. I want to be remembered as like a great, and the only way I'm gonna do that is by fighting the best people. And if I've got to learn a few lessons along the way, then so be it. Like, I'd rather find out now. If I'm not good enough, I'd rather find out now than find out a few years down the line, because I've got years now. Like, if I go out there and I get beat by this kid, I've got work to do. In my head now, I'm ready to be fighting people in the UFC. If I go out there and this kid wipes the floor with me, then I couldn't be further away from it. So if you need to learn the lessons, learn them. And that's the only way you're going to improve. So I don't fear losing. I fear not like testing myself. But this is a fight where, like you're saying, it's two big prospects. I was aware of him before I got offered to fight. Obviously, he's around my weight. I've seen him. I looked at him and thought, oh, he's good in. So I've kept an eye on him. And then when I got the opportunity to fight him, like, I bet you he's one of those people, same as me. People see his name and they go, no. You know, like, most people my age aren't fighting someone like that, and respect to him as well. Most people his age aren't getting off a fight like that and taking it, because it's high risk, and it's sort of low reward as well for both of us. If I beat him, people will look at that on Tapology, and I beat someone who's 4-1. If he beats me, he's beat someone who's 3-0. No one's looking at that like, oh, what a win. They're going to in a few years' time. But for now, it doesn't really, it's like a high risk fight for both of us, and it is sort of low reward. But the fact that we're taking these fights shows like where both of us are going to end up going. We're both real fighters, and that's why it's going to be such a good fight. So, yeah, let's do it.
I mean, that's kind of one of the points I wanted to ask about your amateur career. Like, you look through the names of your amateur career, and they're all pretty solid amateur fighters. I mean, it's a real shame that we didn't get to see the Teddy Stringer fight. That would have been an absolutely fantastic fight between the pair of you. I think you've kind of answered it, but I want to try and give you the opportunity to sort of speak on it more directly. Why did you like? What's your opinion of an amateur? Not necessarily your amateur career, but what's your opinion on what an amateur career should be used for? Like, what's the point of an amateur career?
I think most people at the minute are using it wrong. They try and pick like 70-30, 80-20 fights where it's like, I should win that. Like, for me, it was the opposite. My coach wanted to get me fights where it was like, obviously not stupid matchups, but at the same time, like, there'd be some fights where it was probably a 40-60, like favouring the other guy due to age and things like that. I think my skill set was always better than most people, but like man strength and that is a real thing. I'm starting to find that out now as I'm getting older. Like, if I fought a 16-year-old me now, I'd absolutely ragdoll him. So things like that. But I think it is about picking fights where you might be like, the odds might be stacked against you, but that's where you're going to do the most learning. And you might surprise yourself as well. But fight the toughest fight you can, stay consistent, work hard. Practice, like, living the lifestyle as well. I think that's another big thing. Like, you want to, there's a difference between amateur and pro. But at the same time, if you can get used to like having the dedication of a pro or amateur, that's going to carry over well for you.
I wanted to ask you, you said take the tough fights, right? Now, this is a topic that some fighters don't like talking about. So obviously, if you don't want to, feel free. But you're a father, right? You're fighting for more than just yourself. You're fighting to put food on your family's table. You're fighting to leave a legacy for your family. Those tough fights can incur damage, right? Those tough fights can leave you with brain injuries that we as an MMA community still don't really understand the sort of the efficacy of. You've already mentioned that you don't spar hard for obvious reasons, but taking those tough fights, how do you balance that in your head, right? In one aspect, you absolutely have to take tough fights. You will not know, as you've so beautifully put already, you're not going to know if you're a good enough fighter unless you take these tough fights, right? You're just not going to know. You could go out and you could pick fights and you could go and end at 25-0, 30-0 against a bunch of trash cans. Or you could go out there and you could say, am I good enough? Am I actually as good as I think I am? Putting yourself at that risk, putting yourself in that firing line could potentially and will almost certainly lead to a level of damage that you'll walk away from the sport with. How do you, as a fighter, as a man, and as a father, rationalize that?
Yeah, it obviously is, like, especially when you have a kid and things like that, it puts everything into perspective. Like, there is more outside of life than fighting. Like, I never want to end up being one of these guys who's 40, like Bigfoot Silver, and he just can't stop fighting and keep like this. I'm not stupid. Like, if I ever get to that point, I'm done. But for now, I'm young, I'm healthy, like you said, because I'm not. I think most of the damage done is in the gym. In a fight, like, if you're taking them shots week in, week out, then you are going to get damage. But if this camp, for example, I've not took a big headshot. I've nowhere. There's been obviously inspiring. If I get caught with a shot, it'll register like, oh, in a fight that might have hurt me, but it's not like got the full force on it. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to take that shot in the gym. But as for the damage side of it, it's part of the game. When I'm fighting in the gym, I have got like regard to my own health. Like, if someone was bombing me and things like that, then I'd tell them. I'd be like, do you know what I mean? It's not a fight. We're not getting paid to do it. But in a fight, I don't care. Like, I've got no regard for what happens. Like, there's never been a thought in my head about getting hurt in a fight. It doesn't really like pop into my head. But it is like when I think about it, I'd obviously hate for something like that to happen. But at least I've chose a life that I love. I'd rather be in danger doing something that I love every single day. Like, I've got an amazing life. I'm so lucky to be able to do what I do every day. Every day I wake up and I'm excited to go and do something I love, and then I get to come home and have some family time. So I'd rather be putting my brain and my life sort of at risk through fighting than waking up every single day and going and doing a job I absolutely hate and sitting at a desk. Because I could do that and I could be trying to live this safe life and keep my brain safe and cross the road and get ran over. So there's no guarantee in life anyway. So find what you love and chase it.
And the other aspect, and I suspect I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. What's your opinion on dealing damage to your opponents? Because there could be times, I know, we've already talked about the backpack. We've talked about the finishes from the back. We've talked about how long you've drilled them. But there may be guys that you can't take their back, and it's a war on the feet, and it's you that's winning the war, and you're landing a ton of damage. And maybe they're doing enough, and we're looking at 10-8 rounds, and we're looking at beatdowns. Like, the fight that I remember recently is Renato Moicano versus Rafael dos Anjos. He absolutely destroys him for 2 rounds. And then in the 3rd round, you can tell there's a little bit of mercy in there. There's an element of mercy, and RDA takes his foot off the gas, and Renato Moicano comes back and starts landing a ton of damage on RDA, and RDA is like, oh shit, here we go. Like, what have I done? How do you feel about landing damage and potentially changing the course of your opponent's career?
I'm going to be completely honest, like, I don't mind it. Like, that probably sounds bad, probably sound like a bit of a psycho saying it, but I think anyone who, like, is at the very top of this game will probably agree. Like, there's sort of like a nice feeling about hurting someone, and it sounds bad saying it, but like, when I ever have been in a fight and I can see someone's hurt or someone's broke, like, you sort of like get off on it. It's a mad thing. But I think if you're not like that, then you're sort of in the wrong game. Like, I'm not there to look after my opponents. That's the referee's job. After the fight, as soon as that fight's done, I've never want like anything more to go on. But if it had to, it had to. And it's the same for me. Like, I wouldn't expect someone who I'm fighting to have mercy on me. Like, I hate it when I see people complaining about like follow-up shots after a knockout. Like, if someone knocks me out and I'm a kip on the floor and the ref hasn't stopped it, then keep putting shots in on me. That's what I've signed up to do. I've put myself in that position, and I'll 100% be the same on someone else. Like, you're in there to fight, you're in there to hurt each other. It's always respect, even for me before it and after it. But at the same time, like, whoever I'm fighting, they want to knock me out in front of my family, and my dad's there and my mum's watching it at home, and you want to put me asleep in front of them. So at the same, if I'm hurting that person, then good. That's what I'm there to do. But obviously, you'd never want to impact someone's health after it. But if you did it again, it's part of the game. You just both know what you signed up for.
I mean, I don't think there's an element of being a psychopath there. I think this, at the end of the day, is a gladiatorial sport. Whether we like it or not, it's modern day gladiator stuff. And, yeah, I don't think there's anything negative to that mindset. And equally, it's a mindset that may even keep you safe when you're in there. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like RDA made that choice because he's been in wars himself. He's taken those beatings and he's given those beatings. And maybe as a man, as he's getting older, he changes his opinion on that. And I think it's really interesting to see what somebody at 21 is thinking in comparison to somebody all that time ago. Anyway, I'll wrap this up with the final question. You're essentially walking into enemy territory. You're going to Dublin. You're walking into Bellator. We know that Bellator has a really good relationship with SBG and its fighters. Does the idea of you walking into the 3 arena in enemy territory against essentially a home fighter, right? Does that spur you on? Does that add to the nerves? Does that make you excited? How does that experience make you feel?
It does excite me. I'd be lying if I said it's not like a scary thing going into like something like that, where I'm probably gonna have people booing me and things like that. But I've had people boo me since I can remember one of my first fights. The kid come out to touch gloves with me, and I just said no, and people were booing me. And I like it, you know what I mean? It's part of what we do, like we were saying before, it's entertainment. But yeah, it does excite me, the fact I'm going into enemy territory. I've not really done it before. A lot of my fights have been on like home soil, sort of. I've always been in like the home corner. So I'm looking forward to like walking out first, being in the cage first, things like that. It's a different experience. That's what it's all about at this stage, is getting as much experience as I can for when in 10 years time when I'm fighting the biggest fights of my life. So yeah, I am excited about it. There's nerves anyway. Like, I'm not going to be more nervous because people in the crowd are going to be booing me. Like, I don't really give a shit what them people who are booing me think about me, to be honest. Like, I don't care about, like, it's not about putting on a performance for them. It's about putting on a performance for myself. Like, I'm my own biggest critic. So that's what I'm nervous about, is about underperforming. So, because then I've got to deal with my own self then till my next fight. So I don't really care what them people are thinking. Obviously, it's nice to put on a show for people and things like that, but it's about me. So I'm not going to be more nervous because people might think this about me, or they might want to see this. Like, I don't really give a shit about that. Like,
beautiful. I think that's the perfect way to end it. Before you go, can you just shout out any sponsors that you would like to shout out? Any teammates, any gyms, any social medias? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll just mainly do me teammates and all my sponsors. I just want to say nice one to all of them because I don't want to say anyone and forget anyone. But my gyms, I've only got a few of them, so I can say them. Obviously, Aspire, Phil, Dean, Aaron, all the coaches there, and all my training partners, especially the likes of Marlon, Dunny, Charlie. They're always a massive help in my camp. Burnsy, my mate as well, who comes to boxing with me. I don't drive. He's like, he's one of many taxi drivers that I've got at the minute. So nice on to him for helping me out, taking me to boxing. And then my boxing coach, Joe Tonks, and a big thank you to Alliance as well, at Thai Gym, who he sponsors me, and like he's been a massive help in like filling in some gaps that I had with my striking. So yeah, thank you to everyone that's helped me so far, and it's only the beginning. Looking forward to bringing them all on the journey with me.
Beautiful. Well, if you could just tell people where to find you on social media if they don't know already.
I only really use Instagram, McCracken01. Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Well, best of skill for your fight, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, mate. Nice one.